Halftime in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. It is the Haverford School 20, Episcopal Academy 13. Now, it's time for a feature we put together looking at the history of this game, 100 and counting. A look back presented by Turner Investment Partners.
Generations of Haverford and Episcopal students watched or participated in what now has become Haverford-EA Day. The historic rivalry is in its third century and today celebrated its 100th game. It all began as a challenge in 1889.
Back in 1889, I now find out that the boys from Haverford School are actually the ones that issued the challenge, and it was Episcopal that accepted it. And it's been going on, not continuously, but been going on ever since, and here we are at the 100th game.
Games became a rivalry in the 30s, mainly because Episcopal moved into Haverford's backyard.
Probably the reason that it became a rivalry back in the 30s, you have to remember, is that that's the time when Episcopal had just moved to the main line. They had moved out to the country from Center City, Philadelphia.
Another reason the rivalry grew in the 30s and 40s was because the teams were good. During that era, Haverford won 9 titles and Episcopal won 10 championships. The 1950s and 60s were not as dominant, but both teams won a combined 9 titles. The 1968 game stands out as one of the most important in that era. Episcopal was undefeated at 7-0 and the favorite for the championship, but lost 35-9.
We went over there with a very, very good football team, and were upset by a Haverford team that was very well coached. There were some titanic battles, but we were just stunned at how good they were.
In 1970, both teams were undefeated heading into the final game. The weather was freezing and the ground was saturated with ankle-deep mud.
Weather conditions were terrible, just awful. But I remember Benny Fortune was a halfback for Haverford School, and he ran off 2 really long runs early in the game. Usually I had something I wanted to tell him. I had no idea what to tell him. It was just, they were stunned, I was stunned. It was just, oh my gosh.
Haverford prevailed in a 42-6 blowout. In 1971, the Fords repeated as champions. It would be their last. Championships were few in the 1980s, but the rivalry thrived and grew. The 1984 game was one to remember. Episcopal down 8-7, drove 99 yards to win 15-8 in the last minute. The 1980s also spurred the multi-sport participation in Haverford-EA Day. Football shared the spotlight with soccer, cross-country, and water polo. These teams have also seen their share of stellar athletes. For Episcopal, Kyle Eckel was one of the Churchman's greatest.
Kyle's senior year was a very good year for us. Kyle was an excellent football player. He played fullback, he played linebacker. He was a two-way player when he was in high school, and he's gone on to enjoy a career in the NFL after his career at the Naval Academy.
22 carries, 139 yards for Eckel. He takes the handoff here. They can't bring him down. He got in for the touchdown.
Although superstar athletes like Kyle Eckel sometimes pass through the history of this rivalry, Haverford-EA Day is about regular kids playing for pride and showing spirit in their school.
It's more than just a game. It's extremely important to the students, the faculty, the alums, anyone that has connections to the 2 schools. It brings those school communities together more than any other single event. And as long as the 2 schools exist, this rivalry will exist.
All right, Colleen Wolfe with that report for us. The long and storied history of a rivalry between Episcopal Academy and the Haverford School. All right, we'll take a break and then come back in a moment. It's halftime, Haverford 20, EA 13.